Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Shelf Board Game Reviews. This is the EYAK episode number 3. This is basically a video series where you get to interact with the channel. Also get to talk about some games I've been playing lately, look into some kickstarters that kind of have my attention or I wanted to make some opinions on, and finally we'll close with a survey where you get to pick one of the next videos we're either going to review for a board game or the next video series or what we're going to do, but again, that's all going to be based on your feedback. Now before we go anywhere with this episode, I am still working on the Too Many Bones review for the channel. Now, interesting enough, if you play the game, you're definitely going to understand this, but Too Many Bones is a very, very robust system. You know, the basic game, you have a lot of expansions, and you even have a basic, let's not call it a second edition, but a new way to introduce yourself to the Too Many Bones system through Undertow, which is basically a 1 or 2 player game. And I don't want to get into the review stuff of it, but just understand there's a lot to the game, system, and I want to make a video review that's going to be really good, very entertaining, it's not going to be boring. So the biggest trick I have with the game is doing the tutorial video, which is one I'm kind of having the barrier because I don't want to be so darn obtuse that halfway through the video being doing this. Because if I'm bored, you're going to be bored. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make sure it's not going to be a video that's just so much of an overview. It's going to be worthless and pointless. So I'm trying to find a nice balance there, and that's kind of what's causing the hesitation. But don't worry, I'm going to get that finished, get that fully edited, and get that up on the channel as quickly as possible. Now, on the topic of games I played with the group tonight, we had a heck of a lot of fun. We got to play Deep State again, and awesomely, I finally got the group to agree to film a replay through of the game itself. Now, if you haven't seen Deep State, it's a card game where it's basically set collection. It's got a really cool, interesting theme. Think about everything you see in Jason Bourne movies or various different conspiracy theory movies where you have a shadow puppet organization that's working behind the scenes to take over the world. But it's kind of a cool thing. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's got some fantastic artwork. But if you want to learn more, just check out the video. I'll put a link up here where we actually play an entire video or entire gameplay, a full 3-player game. And while it's a little bit rough because it's the first time we've actually done a gameplay video with my friends, it's definitely very awesome. It shows you all the gameplay for the game. It shows you just how cool the game can definitely be. Also, we got to play Lockup tonight. Now, I am just going to come out and say this. Lockup is a game I'm going to review on the channel, so not too many spoilers here, but Lockup, and let's just give some props to Thunderworks as a company, but Lockup is an absolutely dang brilliant game. I love worker placement games. If you've watched my channel before, you know I like civilization games, I love my card games, and I love my worker placement games. Those are pretty much my favorite style of games, well, beyond RPGs and stuff like that. So, this game has taken the most basic concept of a worker placement game. We've seen it all before. I put my workers here, you put your workers here. First come, first serve. Hey, we all win and we all live happily ever after. Not in Lockup. Let's just ignore the fact that the theme is, well, it's a pretty darn cool theme. You're all fantasy races, you're locked up in prison, you're trying to be the most, call it the most treacherous and the most influential gang, so you get released and sent to the arena and get a chance to fight for freedom. I'm assuming that's going to be the next expansion or the next game for Thunderworks. Who knows, maybe they got some cool ideas up their sleeves. But the thing that's so darn brilliant about this game is, first of all, the first half of the mechanic, we've seen it before, where it's not the first to come to a location to get the resources. It's the one who sends the most of the workers to the location to get the resources. So if you look at a location, you say, okay, I need this, but this person put 5 strength worth of workers here. So as long as I put 6 strength worth of workers here, or 5 if the tiebreaker happens to be in effect in my favor here, I can take the spot. So that's a mechanic we've seen before. That's not too crazy. But here's the really cool thing. Every player has 6 workers, various strengths, from 0 strength all the way up to 5 strength or higher. I'm not going to get too much in the rules, but you can get beyond 5 strength. But every single turn, every single player has the option to send up to 2 of the workers, not even to the same space, but up to 2 of the workers to be placed face down. So now you get this kind of mind game where you're kind of going, okay, this person put a face down unit there. Did they put a face down worker there because they're trying to bluff me and they want me to waste all my units because they know I really need that spot? Or do they put their worker face down there because it's a lookout and they're trying to get any of the intrigue and get the attention of the guards? Or do they put their worker there because they don't really have any need for that space and they're trying to force me to waste things? Or is this going to happen? And it just creates a really darn brilliant mind game, which I have a heck of a lot of fun with. Now, I am not going to lie. This game is super simple to teach, super simple to play, extremely damn deep with strategies, and oh my gosh, does this game have the potential to create so much analysis paralysis. Because you will literally sit there and go, okay, I need this space really badly. but nobody else has placed any workers on this space. I'm the very first player on this turn. So if I put one worker here, I can't put any more workers here, because once you assign workers to a spot, you can't add workers at a later time. So you need to know in advance. So the beginning of every single round is so insanely intense as you're all trying to plan, okay, what does everybody at this table need? Okay, what is everybody at this table going to work for? Oh my gosh, I need to replan everything, because if I do this, they're going to do that, then they're going to do that. And it creates this phenomenal gameplay environment that I have not played Lockup before my top 51 games, but I can guarantee you Lockup is going to go on my top 51 games of all time. They did a fantastic job. Thunderworks is on fire. Every one of the games they made, I've had at least a positive experience with. I mean, Cartographer was fun. I enjoy Role Player with the expansion, and I think Lockup is just a beyond brilliant, fun worker placement game that I enjoyed a heck of a lot. And then finally, we got to play this War of Mine. Now, this War of Mine is an extremely interesting game. I'm going to use that word here to describe it, because it is it's a very dark theme, because let's face it, war is a very, very dark theme. But you are basically playing survivors in a war-torn city that is being constantly bombarded, is being attacked, and is suffering through basically almost the 2-year war is basically what the game represents. It's a very depressing theme, because you play as people who as a group are trying to survive or decide the fate of these survivors. And here's the thing, you're going to lose survivors. Survivors are going to die. That's not in the question. The point you need to constantly be making when you play this game, if you want to play this game efficiently and survive for more than 2 days, is you need to decide which one of your survivors are going to die. Because it's going to happen. You cannot play this game through an entire period, through an entire scenario, and have none of your survivors pass on. So it creates this really deep, rich environment of gameplay that is really depressing if you want to look at it, but at the same time it's this really deep, thematic, challenging game that has a lot of expansions that can add to the scenarios, add to the replay, and add to the variety. Now, this game is extremely brutal. My win rate is, well, it's abysmal. I'm not going to admit to my win rate, because somebody's going to post down below how they manage to win this game every time and how I manage to suck at this game. But all joking aside, this game is extremely brutal. I would imagine that nobody, if they play this game right, has ever won this game the first time they played it. Probably never won it the second time they play it. And I won't bet most people have an average win rate of maybe 10 to 20%. That's how challenging and brutal this game is. But it's so phenomenally well done. It does a fantastic job of keeping the theme, and the stories it creates is just beyond awesome. It's a wonderful game to play, but it's a game I don't know if I'll ever review on the channel, simply because to review the game would be to give away the wonderful spoilers of the game, because the game comes with a thick storybook. If you're familiar with Tales of the Arabian Nights or Agents of Smersh or games like that come with that nice thick manual that has a whole bunch of the stories in it, you have the rough idea, because as you explore, as you encounter, and as you do various different things, you're going to be flipping over cards which are going to tell you to go to a book and start reading stories from a book. And these stories are deep, they're powerful, they're dark, but they fit the theme and they're really fantastic. And I don't know if I'd ever do a full review of the game, because I don't want to do spoilers, but I would like to tell people how great this game is, how well it's designed, and how much of an enjoyable experience it is as a group game. And I know a lot of people say that this is a game that you want to play solo. I say they're full of it. This is a game that you want to play with a group, because you want to discuss, you want to enjoy the story, enjoy the environment, and go through and play this game and have a heck of a lot of fun. If you are all adults and you don't have the type of players who demand what everybody else and dictates what everybody else does at the table. Luckily, there's some mechanics in the game that kind of minimize this if you do play with people who have the tendency. But I think this is a game that's phenomenal with a group of players. I think 4 people is fantastic to play this game with, and it's a game I had a lot of fun with. Now, over in the world of Kickstarter, well, first, before we get too deeply into the Kickstarter world here, I'm probably going to get up here on my soapbox just for a second, because I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Kickstarter for Deep State. Now, if you're not familiar with Deep State is a card game that has a very unique theme. It's kind of like a Jason Bourne, well, I talked about a few seconds ago. And if you really want, you can check out my gameplay video with my friends to see a lot more about the game. But it's basically a really cool card game. And to be up on the soapbox just for a second here, I really hope that we as board gamers can start supporting games and game companies that have a lot of gameplay in them. Now, I'm saying this up on my soapbox just for a minute, a little bit self-centered here, because I personally am losing a lot of desire for all these constant Kickstarters that are coming out, which is just halfway okay gameplay, covered up with tons and tons of plastic miniatures. And then I see great games that I know are really, really good, and they are not where I think they should be. And I am going to sit here and say that if we don't start supporting games that are really cool and that are really, really good, we're basically going to reap what we sow. So, having said that, let's go ahead and look at Deep State. Deep State, if you look at it, they managed to add a whole bunch of really, really cool things to the game. Now, originally, when the original Kickstarter came up, the game was for 2 to 4 players, and it's basically a really cool card game with set collection that has an interesting theme. What they have added to the game so far is a lot of really nice things. They have added a solo version to the game, so now the game plays for 1 player. And the cool thing is they decided to make the solo rules, instead of making it a game where you're playing, well, I'm sure we've all played those games before where they added kind of like a AI to the system where the game starts actually playing differently and you're not really feeling like you're playing versus another player. What they've done is they create an AI system here in this game where it makes it feel like you're playing another player. So you can use a solo game as a game to play the game and enjoy it, or you can use the solo rules to get better at the game, because this is a game that is going to reward extremely good play. The better you get at this game, the better you're going to be able to play this. And I've seen this by playing this with my friends now multiple times. Every time we play this game, we are getting better and better, understanding the similar strategies and seeing how all the different card play works definitely together. So they've added the solo rules to the game. They've also added a 5th player, which to me is, that's like a sale right there, because my gaming group is always 5 or 6 or 7 players when we play D&D. But anytime I see a game that plays 5 players, I really want to support those games because I want more games like that. So just to take 1 second here before I get off my soapbox, we should support with games that we want to see made more of. I want to see more games that support 5 players. I want to see more games that are really good because they're good, not because there's a whole bunch of plastic to them. So I want to support awesome games like Deep State. So a little bit further, the game does add up to 5 players. They've added extra modules to the game, which is going to add to the variety and add to the replay of the game. Now, the basic way the game works is you're going to set these world domination decks, which are create these different powers that players can work towards. So what they've added are these different modules that allow you to a different way to set up the game every time, which is going to create a different flow and different strategies that interact with the basic cards of the game. So that's really, really cool. So they're adding a whole bunch of really cool things. They've added some interesting new themes. So instead of having the really strong Jason Bourne type of theme to the game, they've actually kind of copied the classic 80s movies or 80s movie V. For some of you who may remember V, it was Robert Englund's first start, you know, the guy who played Freddy Krueger, but that was actually his first start on TV. Is basically a story about aliens that come to our planet and they come in peace, but secretly, spoiler alert, they were reptiles and they just wanted to eat us and use us all as food. So it's kind of a cool story. But besides that point, they've added some extra cool modules that kind of mock that kind of thing. So I kind of think it's cool how they're taking a semi-serious approach, but they're also taking a lighthearted approach, and they're not taking the concept of the new world order too seriously, but you do have the availability of actually having it if that's what you're wanting. I think it's cool. They're adding lots of cool extra gameplay. 1 to 5 players, that's a sale to me, especially when you have a great game that is not relying on plastic to go ahead and be good. Now, next up in the Kickstarter world, we have Vampire the Masquerade Chapters. Now, when this game was first announced, I was really, really interested in this game. I saw this game, I was like going, oh my gosh, this game is almost talking directly to me when you look at this game. And then I started watching some of the gameplay, and I started watching some of the other things to it, and I'm starting to think that this is not a game I'm going to be interested in, which is really, really unfortunate. Now, I grew up with the White Wolf RPGs, and I think they're really interesting game systems. If you play them with the right group of people, they can make some for amazing story time, some amazing player interaction, and some really phenomenal entertaining campaigns where you can play vampires, werewolves, wraiths, mages, ghosts, and everything like that. It's just a phenomenal series of RPGs if you can get into them and you can enjoy the environment that they're trying to create. So I was really highly interested in this game because it advertises a game for 1 to 4 players. Okay, that's already one negative for me because my game group is 5, but you know, whatever it is, whatever it can take. But then they started talking about how the game had a whole bunch of branching storylines and how you had different abilities to get different things, and they're trying to create a storyline as you continue to play the game. And then I started to notice some hesitation because it started seeming like the game was concentrating less on the storyline, and it seemed like it was starting to concentrate more on being a glorified choose-your-own adventure. Now, I'm not going to say that they didn't do a really good job with the branching storyline, but from everything I've seen, the only thing they really did really great on is the branching storyline. I really am not seeing 100% understanding of what is the purpose of having the miniatures, what is the purpose of having the game boards. Now they say there's a lot of game boards for the game, but I don't see the reason why we have all these game boards yet. So I kind of have a hesitation there trying to figure out exactly what's going on with that. Now I hope there's something cool that they're planning, something really good that's going to make it more interesting. But so far, I'm not there yet. And actually, the more I look in the game, the more I'm starting to hesitate on it. So I'm probably not going to end up backing it, which is probably going to be unfortunate. But so far, I'm just having trouble getting myself to spend $150 for what looks like a very, very overproduced choose your own adventure book that is based on flipping cards, looking on the backside of them, and continuous storyline. I don't see a lot of replay variety. Yes, there's different vampires you can play, but to me it seems like you're going to be playing the same story with semi-different differences, and until I see something that's going to tell me otherwise, I'm probably not going to be looking into the game. Next up, we have League of Infamy from Mantic Games. Now, League of Infamy is a game that's done by the same person who designed, or I should say he used to work for Games Workshop. He's helped design some really good board games before. If you played any of the Warhammer Quest games, then you're probably familiar with some of the games that he's designed. He also worked on the Hellboy board game. And I have some interest in this game. Now, the theme seems a little bit wonky where you're playing the bad guys, and it almost has a little bit of a feel of Cutthroat Caverns where you're trying to work as a party. But even though you're working as a party, you're still kind of working against each other here. So it seems like the balance is between playing a player playing the Overlord, who's against the heroes, versus a group of heroes who kind of want to work together, but again, it has that Cutthroat Caverns vibe where you don't want to work together too much because you want to be the best to survive, best to get the rewards, and the best to go through the entire adventure. So they actually have it up on GameFound right now because the original Kickstarter did not do as well as Mantic was hoping. And I honestly think that's because they had a little bit of bad blood from Dungeon Saga and Star Saga, both games that they didn't do too good. Dungeon Saga did really good, but the gameplay was not that great. Star Saga didn't do nearly as well, and again, the gameplay did not evolve Dungeon Saga that much, so I think a lot of people were gun-shy with League of Infamy, even though the designer has a good pedigree. Hellboy did really, really well, and we know the Warhammer Quest games do really, really well, especially the fantasy version. It's a really great game if you haven't had a chance to play it. Unfortunately, it's really hard to find these days, but if you can find a copy, I can highly recommend it. So I do have some interest in the game. Worst case scenario, I get some extra miniatures for D&D, but best case, it could be decent. Again, my only hesitation with this one is that I was burned with Dungeon Saga. Star Saga was definitely a little bit more of a burn. So I don't know if I want to go in on this one. I still have some chance to go ahead and back the game under GameFound.com. And it doesn't look like I'm going to be paying any extra than I would have paid from the Kickstarter, so that's kind of a benefit. And worst case scenario, I may have some extra miniatures from D&D, but thanks for all the other board games with, halfway decent gameplay with tons of miniatures. I'm at the point where I'm at a saturation with plastic my board games, so I really don't care about plastic my board games anymore. Matter of fact, that game, I think it's called The Wall, if I remember. I'm probably saying it wrong. I'll add a note below to give me the correct name of the game here because I'm forgetting what it is. But basically, it was a game where you're trying to protect a wall from the invaders in China, and you can either get plastic miniatures or you get wooden meeples. I got the wooden meeples. I'm just sick and tired of having so much plastic because it does not add to the gameplay half the time. And I'd rather just have a game that's good than a game that's full of tons of plastic. That's just the point I'm at right now. And speaking of tons of plastic, let's go ahead and finally look at Conan the Conqueror. Now, Conan the Conqueror, the new Kickstarter, well, looks like people are throwing more money at it right now as we talk. But this game, I played the original Conan from 2015, and I thought it was a pretty darn decent game. But I'm having a heck of a time swallowing this expansion because basically this is an expansion that adds the solo rules and the co-op rules, which have been available for a couple months now for $12. Literally $12 for the PDF that you can get over Drive-Thru RPG right now. So I can get that PDF for $12, or I should say I already have it, but I got it for $12. Or I can go over here to this Conan the Conqueror pledge, spend, I think it's $130 for a $12 PDF, 2 boards, and a whole bunch more plastic. I'm really up in the air on this one. I mean, I enjoy Conan. I think it's great, but I don't know if I want to spend $130 for more plastic when I got so much damn plastic for this game as it is. I almost want to just look at everybody and say, everybody, if you want more Conan, go buy the $12 PDF. And less plastic. Let's just pay for gameplay. I mean, that's what we really care about as board gamers, is gameplay, right? I mean, I know there's painters out there who love their plastic, but gameplay? I don't know. Anyways, I don't know if I'm going to back Conan the Conqueror. I'm really, really on the edge on this one. And by on the edge on this one, I mean the edge is way over here. I'm about 5 miles this way, so I don't know if I'm going to back it. If I do, it's because they're advertising a few extra campaigns that are not available in the $12 PDF. So maybe that's going to be worth it, but I just don't know if it's worth spending $130 when there's already a ginormous amount of adventures and campaigns available for this. There's online adventures made by the player base, made by the developers, made by lots of people. There's no way I'm going to get through all these adventures in one lifetime as it is, so I may just enjoy the $12 PDF and be happy and save myself $120 and spend it on other things like maybe a Games Workshop game that I've been really eyeing lately. Next up, we get to the interaction part with you, the viewers out there, because now we get to the next poll. And we're going to have two polls. Okay, sir, I'm not going to break into Sesame Street on you, probably because I'll be sued if I do, so let's not do that. I don't want to be sued. I do not. Anyways, we are going to have 2 polls for you this week, and one is a continuation on the prior poll because we only have a couple of votes on it. But after we are done filming the video series for Too Many Bones, next up on the list is going to be a competition between Age of Steam and Escape Plan. Which game do you want to see next reviewed on the channel? Leave your comments down in the YouTube comments down below, or send me emails, since that's what a lot of people seem to be doing, is sending the emails for your votes on exactly which game you want reviewed next on the channel. Also next up is our series of videos, 7 videos that meet a certain criteria. And the next series of criteria that you get to vote for on is series number 1 will be a series of 7 games for people who think dice hate them. Now, I'm sure we all have people at our table that we game with who are convinced that dice hate them, and the rest of us know dice hate them, because we'll see them roll a 20-sider, and all they need to do is roll a 2 or higher, and every single time they're going to roll a 1 because dice hate them. So I'm going to do a series of video series that's 7 games for people who believe that dice hate them. Or the alternative to go ahead and vote for would be 7 games that create a wonderful organic narrative. Now, I picked that title very specifically because I don't want games that are going to spoon feed you a story. So basically, we're not looking at the Fantasy Flight games, app-driven games. We're looking at 7 games that create a rich story every time you play them based on the organic way you're going to play through the game. So how you may have a scenario in these games in this video, but the scenario is going to play out completely different in a very organic way, and at the end you're going to have a very complete story based on how you play the game. So again, not the app-driven games. These are games that create a wonderful story as you play the game. I'm going to have 7 games on there that meet that criteria, so go ahead and vote. Dice games or story-based games, that'll be the next vote for here on the channel for 7 games to enjoy. And with that, we're going to bring the EYAK episode number 3 to an end. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them down in the YouTube comments down below. I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. You can also feel free to email me at offtheshelfboardgamereviews. That's OTSBGR@gmail.com. I'll be sure to answer your email as quickly as I can. Remember, this channel is 100% sponsor free and free of Kickstarters, which basically means I'm not begging you for cash every couple of months, but that does mean I need your help to keep the lights on. Now, everything about this channel is all 100% out of my pocket, and right now everything does not cover nearly my costs, so you can help me keep the lights on. Subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and leave comments, interact with the channel. Watch the videos. All these things can help with the YouTube analytics, which can really help cover some of my costs, and I really, really do greatly appreciate your subscriptions, your watching, and your enjoyment of the channel matters to me, and it can help keep the lights on. And as always, thanks for watching.